Well, I'm in the shop today, working on one of those horseshoe rasp knives. Um, I got all this buffed out, kind of to a mirror finish, and I'm working on the handle and around the handle edges here and along the top of the spine, trying to sand out all of the rough, scratches and stuff. I've already done the 120, and I've worked on the 220, and now then I'm down to 320. So what I do, I just lock this down in the vise. You pan around here. I just put this in a piece of leather so it won't damage my blade. Now I put it in the vise and I just clamp it down so it won't move around on me. And so, like I said, I've got one scratch right here I saw, and you want to make sure you get all these scratches out from previous grits. And I see one that I'm going to have to take out with a 120 grit, even though I was on 320. And you have to watch that real close, because if you don't get that all out of there now, like I said in other videos, when you get on down into the finer grits, like 800, 1000, that, and you see a deep scratch, you got to go back to 120. And that is not fun. I've been there and done it. You have to start all over, and then you have to scratch all this all up and rough it all up again. It's awful. So I've learned to really pay attention to these scratches, and I think I've got that one. This is why handmade knives, one at a time, not made on a CNC machine, done one at a time by hand, costs so much money, because it is so involved and it's all time consuming, all done by hand and watched very carefully and made sure it's done right. That's what you're paying for, is quality. Okay, I think I've got that scratch. I'll see. Let me go to 220. And see if I can see that scratch anymore. So if it's there, we've got to get it out. And I don't see it anymore. So I think I got her. A lot of people think, well, this is just so boring, stand here sanding on this all day long, but it's the progress you make as you go along. It's the way the knife changes from a rough looking knife to starting to smooth up and have pretty nicer lines, and I don't know, I think it's just part of making knives. You gotta love it. And as you see this knife progress and turn into a beautiful piece of art, it's worth every minute you put into it. I've got that out to 220. We'll switch over to 320. I think I got one right here. I'll use it first. And it's just a progressing, it's a progress you go through from one course of, fine sheet to finer sheet to finer sheet of sandpaper, till you get all the way down to 2000. And that's when you go to the buffer. And this is what's required to get that mirror finish. Yeah, is it time consuming? You better believe it. And I've heard people say, man, I want to make knives. Well, you got to understand, it's a lot of work. A lot of work. You got to love it. But anyway, I'm getting that scratch out. I don't see it there. Now we'll switch over and get the flats. Flats are easier to do. You can move along fairly quickly when you're doing this flat edges. but you just keep looking for any kind of a deep scratch. And if you see it, you better get it out of there. And as you're sanding along, you'll start seeing this thing it'll get shinier and get closer to that mirror finish as you progress along. Right now in the 320 stage, it's just like, it's still pretty dull, but it'll get there. You just keep working through each grit. And this is a place where you get a lot of deep scratches you got to look for, because I even see a little indentation right there. Am I ticky? Yeah, I'm pretty ticky. But you know, people expect to get the best quality knife they can get, and you need to be ticky. You know, when somebody's investing good money in a handmade knife, it needs to be the best quality you can give them. And I may have to drop down a grit to get that little ding out. We'll see. Yep. I can see a little scratch right there. That scratch has to come out. So what you do, you drop back down. And I'm going to drop down to 120. And at first you do this quite a bit, you know, into your coarser grits, because, let's see, let me try this flat. I have a piece of wood here that actually has a piece of leather glued to it. I don't know if you can see it. There's a piece of leather glued to the top of this. And it kind of gives a little bit of, that's a kind of absorb when you're pushing on it. Not such a rough piece of wood against it. And it seems to do a lot better job. But I've learned that over the years. It just seems to make it turn out a lot better. But there's a little bitty ding right there, and I see it. And that's going to come out of there. So I go back to 120. Still there a little bit. This knife has already been heat treated and quenched, so it's hard. So it takes a little bit longer to get these scratches out than when it was before you put it in the forge and heat it up and quench it. It's a lot easier before, but there, I think I got that one. Anyway, actually that's just the process. I'm not going to take a lot of your time here just watching me go all the way around this knife. I just kind of was in the shop working, and I thought, you know, I just kind of want to show you some of the things you go through making a handmade knife. It's time consuming, and but the end result is worth it. When you see that knife, and I'll show you this knife when I get done. I'll take it here to buffer after a while and I get it all sanded down, and I'll do a little bit more of a video on it when I get it ready to buff, and then you'll see it turn into it'll turn into a pretty knife. So until then, we get on the buffer. I'm going to get busy and sand some more.